Welcome to the Week 13 edition of the Monster Pod. Matt Brown, Noops Christensen here for Lineups. And if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. Everything absolutely free that we do here. We do have 4 games already in the books this week. And Noops, it went wacky land around here as all 4 dogs win outright. Not covered, won outright. The Packers started things off with a pretty convincing win over the Lions. More on that because that's going to be very interesting. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down with an ankle injury. How severe, we don't know. Probably at least out a couple of weeks. And we know he is kind of the straw that stirs the drink there for them. Then the Cowboys put it on the Chiefs. You and I wondered last week, is this Cowboys defense getting any better? Kind of seems like they are. Then Cincinnati gets Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase back, and they just a very Raidersian performance from the Ravens, and that was a 32-14 win. And then today here on Black Friday, the Bears win outright over the Eagles after Jalen Hurts has one of his worst games as a pro. I mean, did you take anything away from these 4 games that you're going to use kind of going forward here from a betting standpoint?
Yeah, some really tough losses from a Lions perspective. I think we now need to consider the idea we might not have the Detroit Lions in the postseason.
Yeah.
That's a really big loss for them. I was impressed with the Packers. The offense looked really good. The Bengals, Joe Burrow looked great. And I wonder if that says more about the Bengals or more about the Ravens. You know, was Joe Burrow and that offense as good as they looked, or the Ravens it's just a really tough spot for them. And Kansas City, I mean, they're not officially out of the playoffs, but that sure feels like the first nail in the coffin for them. The Eagles, though, that's the one that really concerns me. It's now the 3rd, 4th week in a row we've seen the offense go up against a defense that, by all accounts, isn't great. You know, this Bears defense is one that's been able to be attacked all season, and the offense can't do anything. They can't move the ball. We even saw a tush push today that resulted in a fumble. It just seems like everything is going wrong for the Eagles, but they're still way ahead in the NFC East and still, after the Rams, probably the scariest team in the NFC. So Philadelphia is the team I'm most concerned about because, again, going into the playoffs, I still rate them fairly high. But if this offense can't score even 20 points a game, I don't care how good the defense is.
And that's exactly, I mean, this offense is broken, like full on. Because as you mentioned, this Bears defense, like while it was getting a little bit better towards the middle of the season, they were down 5 starters in this game. 5, all 3 starting linebackers, a corner and a defensive end, and the Eagles scored 15 points in this game against the Bears. Like, this offense is completely broken. They're getting booed off the field. A.J. Brown, like, almost looks like he's, like, nonchalantly catching the ball. I mean, even though he had a decent day, but they can't run block for Saquon. Jalen Hurts, like I said, maybe had his worst game in a couple of years. I mean, just completely inaccurate, missing wide open guys, not seeing wide open guys down the field, and all of that. So it definitely changes my opinion on this Eagles team. And it sucks for me because I have a ton of futures on this Eagles team, a ton of equity in them. But I think that my biggest takeaway here, Noops, is if they hadn't dug themselves such a big hole, I would be even more bullish on the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys are legit, man. I mean, 6-5-1. I know they still got work to do, but the offense is humming. You have 2 legit ones. Like, not very many teams have 2 legit ones. You have 2 legit ones at the wide receiver position. And then on the defensive side, Quinnen Williams, you saw him stuffing the run yesterday. You saw him getting in the backfield, creating pressure on Patrick Mahomes. He's your acquisition. You see Overshown, who came back from injury, which we forget he was on the injury for so long, making big plays out there. And all this, like, they get their 3rd round rookie back at corner yesterday as well, who was working into the rotation. Like I said, I think as long as this defense can be league average or maybe a little bit better with that offense, I think the Cowboys are really scary. And I'll go ahead and tell everyone, I mean, maybe I'm prisoner of the moment. I played some long shot stuff on the Cowboys because with the way that and certainly the way that this played out today with this Eagles team, outside of the Rams, none of these NFC teams do anything for me. Like, I mean, outside of the Rams, none of them really blow my skirt up. So could the Cowboys find their way into the playoffs? And if they got head to head against the Rams in a one-off, could they win? Maybe so. But I mean, again, it was 40-1 for them to win the NFC. I thought it was worth a flyer for me. I mean, I was very, very impressed by what I saw from them.
Yeah, what I agreed with most of what you said was if that defense can be average, and they kind of look like they're average, or at the very least, they can now slow down the run game, which makes the rest of the game much, much easier. And if they can get some help back with the pass defense, this suddenly becomes a scary team because, like you said, the offense is great. I mean, the wide receivers have been fantastic. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Dak Prescott probably won't win MVP, but he better get some votes for it. He has been hands down one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. He is putting the ball exactly where it needs to be. And the Cowboys are a really scary team. I'm kind of holding out hope that maybe they can draw the Buccaneers in the first round or something like that, but they're going to be a very live dog in the playoffs if they can make it.
On to the rest of week number 13 here. Houston on the road at Indy. This is 3.5 in favor of the Colts at home over Houston. 44.5 is the prevailing total. We will get CJ Stroud back for the Texans this week. And then it comes out kind of out of nowhere here, Noops. Like, we knew Daniel Jones was nursing an injury, and you could kind of tell out on the field that there was a little bit of a hesitancy for him to take off and run like we were seeing at the beginning of the season. And then we find out it's a friggin' fracture. Like, what in the hell? Like, out of nowhere, he's got a stress fracture in his leg, and he's going to play through it. I mean, I guess it's enough to keep me off of this game. I mean, it's just like, it's a really good defense in Houston. CJ Stroud coming back can only be good for this team and all of that. And like, half the reason you like Daniel Jones is kind of like Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson yesterday, he's neutered because he's hurt and he can't run, and so he's not a threat anymore. And that's kind of the reason why we liked Indy, right? Is like, Daniel Jones was mobile and he was moving around, he was doing stuff, and if he can't do that, then I don't know how much I like this team anymore.
It's a really scary injury, and after a season of multiple incidents where the injury reporting just hasn't been great. I'm not sure why we haven't seen really like an official statement from the Colts. The coaches finally acknowledged it in the last couple days. He has been practicing, but again, for those of you that might forget your biology class or anatomy, fibula, that's your lower leg bone behind the shin kind of. So it's really exposed. There's not a great way to brace that or wrap that up. My guess is if you're the Texans defense, if you're Will Anderson, if you're Danielle Hunter, you're going to be diving at his legs every chance you get. Now, they have rules to try to protect the quarterback.
It's just, it happens. If the guy's going to play through an injury, I mean, as a team, you do it, right? I mean,
you have to if you're Indianapolis, because this game's huge for the AFC South. If they lose this game to the Texans, all of a sudden the door creeps a little wider open for the Texans possibly winning this division, and the Colts being in danger of missing the playoffs. So a lot could go right, a lot could go wrong here for both of these teams. I kind of expect the defenses to dictate what happens in this game. I think the Houston Texans defense is better than the Colts offense. I think the Colts defense, now that they've gotten health back in the secondary, Sauce Gardner looks like he's real comfortable out there, probably better than the Texans offense. Now, the total sits at 44.5. I should probably be betting an under there, but again, if it turns out Jones okay, if they can keep him clean, if he can avoid being hit, they might be able to put up enough points on their own to get this thing over the total. So this is a fascinating game. I can't wait to see how it plays out, but I just have no idea how you can feel confident about either side.
As we talked about it a little bit more, if this thing does creep up, because it is 115 at a couple of the books out there, if this thing ticks up another half point or a point, I might play the under as well, because like you said, Houston's defense has shown up all year. They're awesome. The Indy defense should be better. Again, now it's not only week 4 of Sauce Gardner, but now it's week 2 of Charvarius Ward being back with this Colts team in the secondary. And Houston's offense certainly has left all kinds of stuff to be desired over the course of the season. And if Daniel Jones is even somewhat compromised, maybe that slows down this offense too. So, Noops, I think you maybe talked me into, and I'm going to have to do I'm going to write this down to maybe come back and circle around to later here, but an under in Texans Colts, because I think that's at least a sharp look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, again, I like what you're saying. It's starting to move a little bit over. If it does get to 45 or even 46, I'll definitely jump on the under.
Arizona on the road at Tampa Bay. This is 3.5 in favor of Tampa Bay, and we know another quarterback is going to be in this one a little bit nicked up, as Baker Mayfield is leaning towards playing here with a sprained left AC joint. Of course, he's right-handed, so it is not his throwing shoulder, but it is definitely a pain tolerance thing, Noops. And, quarterbacks get hit, and quarterbacks hit the ground, and quarterbacks fall down, and big guys land on top of them and all that. So I think Baker could be I think Baker could be playing through some serious stuff here on Sunday. 45.5 is our total. Trey Benson looks like he had a setback. So went limited practice and then DNP. So I don't know if we're going to see him back again. So I guess this is just going to be Bam night for the foreseeable future for Arizona. So if in fantasy you held on to him and didn't drop him, then this is going to pay off for you there. I guess Harrison is going to be back. And Noops, my question to you is, does Arizona care that Harrison is back? Like, Wilson has looked every bit better than him in every facet. He looks more explosive. He gets better separation. He catches the ball better than Marvin Harrison. Like, I don't know why do you put the toothpaste back in the tube? Like, don't you just like deploy him as your first target and Harrison just kind of has to settle back and be the second target?
I wonder if it's sort of a sunk cost situation where you look at this Cardinals season, they're done. They're not going to the playoffs. Nothing good is going to come of this. They won't really be bad enough to compete for the top pick or even top 3. So you're in a dangerous situation with Marvin Harrison where he struggled most of the season. You've looked better without him. And it kind of just adds to the problem of we've got Kyler Murray, we've got Marvin Harrison, these two guys that were supposed to define our offense. What do we do with them going into next season? So I think if Harrison plays, he'll see a lot of targets. I think you kind of want to build up his value a little bit, but this game's all about the Buccaneers. They could probably survive losing this game, but they need to start winning football games. They've got some easy games coming up here. The Panthers just half a game behind them in the division and kind of a decent schedule for them coming up here. Right. So it's a spot where I want to pick the Buccaneers. Again, you've got a team that needs to win versus a team that's kind of done. And I expect maybe a little chicanery with them in terms of what their play calls are going to look like. Again, trying to get it to players they want to build up as opposed to score points. But that injury to Baker really bothers me, especially with as much as he runs. He really gets nicked up quite a bit. And either he's going to have to change the way he plays, which is bad, or he's going to continue to run and probably re-injure himself. So I just don't know how you trust the Buccaneers here, but it's Bucks or pass.
Yeah, it's an interesting deal for me as I look at this because Bucky Irving, by the way, I should mention, is going to be back for the Bucks in this. Now, was it an abundance of caution that they kept him out for as long as they did, or is he just going to try and play through whatever this ailment is because it's not going away and he's just going to work? Because I think in a world that we live in, and obviously you and I both avid fantasy players as well, where everyone wants to say running backs don't matter. I think running backs do matter when the other options are terrible. And like I think we've seen Rachaad White has just got no juice, right? And like Tucker is fine to throw to out of the backfield, but he's not a real running back. I think Bucky Irving matters for this team, right? Like I think Bucky Irving matters for the Bucks. And so if it was like, I knew you were going to get 100% Bucky Irving, I think, like I said, I think Tampa probably survives this because even if Baker with a hurt shoulder, he's turned around, he's handing it off 18 times. You probably get this done. Arizona's defense is nothing you're worried about or whatever. But since I guess I don't know that for certain, maybe it's an in-game look if I'm like, oh, hell, Bucky Irving, like, looks like himself. They're going to run all over this team all day. Maybe then I come in on the Bucs side or something like that, but I don't know if I'm ready for a pregame bet on it.
Yeah, I would look maybe towards like a Bucs team total over, something like that, because if it's clicking, again, Bucky Irvin's going to be running the ball well. That should open it up. The receiver core is pretty healthy this week. And again, maybe Baker can just kind of stand in the pocket and just get the ball down the field. So again, I would look towards the over, Tampa Bay in some way. There's so much unknown here on both sides.
Jacksonville's on the road at Tennessee. They are 6.5 point favorites. 41.5 is our total. And I did make a bet in this one. Listen, Tennessee can prove me wrong if they want to. I laid the 6 with Jacksonville. I know it's on the road. Don't really care. It's Tennessee. They're the worst team in the NFL. Now the Raiders are trying to press them for that, but at least currently they're still 32nd in my power ratings. I think the Jacksonville defense has started to look a little bit better. I think that Brian Thomas coming back, maybe getting that little bit of time off to get his head right, maybe is going to be a good thing too. And now there's no Travis Hunter. So I don't know if he got butt hurt or something. It may be too that it was like this deal. They went out and got Travis Hunter and it's like, oh, I thought I'm the alpha receiver here and all this. Well, Travis Hunter's not gonna be out on the field. So maybe Brian Thomas goes back to being Brian Thomas from last year. They get Britton Strange back last week as well. He makes an instant impact. Another option there for Trevor Lawrence. And honestly, if Jacksonville's a real team and going to try to contest to be in the playoffs, and they got to beat Tennessee by a touchdown. So I laid the 6 with Tennessee in this thing. I mean, with Jacksonville.
You asked the right question at the end. Is Jacksonville a real team? It's so hard to figure out. They're kind of right in the middle. I'm a little concerned. They've got Indianapolis at home next week. Maybe it's a little bit of a look-ahead spot. And although the Titans haven't been good, they've been at homes for basically all month. They played the Chargers on November 2nd, then a bye week. Houston at home the 16th, Seattle at home the 23rd. It's a big advantage for them being at home, and only lost the Chargers by 7, only lost to the Texans by 3, and covered the number comfortably last week against Seattle, especially late in the game. So I'm just kind of at that position where I can't trust Jacksonville. It's too much Trevor Lawrence stuff that I've seen in the past. I just don't believe that they're good, but you're right. They should win this game comfortably. And I don't know if, again, the Titans are getting better or teams aren't taking them seriously, but at the same time, I'm not sure I can trust the Jaguars to take this game seriously. So I actually sort of lean towards the Titans, but I get what you're saying. I would maybe even, if I'm playing Jacksonville, play some alts, because if they come out and win this game, they should win it by a lot. But if they do look ahead, if they are maybe a little bit distracted, I wonder if this game's a little closer than you want it to be at the end.
It was really the defense stuff that kind of put me over the top, which was this Jacksonville defense. And, we often talk about who we think are the best defenses in the NFL. And I think we've been pretty spot on. I think we've been kind of ahead of the trends of these teams, whatever. I don't know why I've had a blind spot for Jacksonville, but you go and you kind of dig in. They're like in the top 10 in a lot of everything. I mean, like almost a lot of everything that we like and that we talk about. And I don't know why I've kind of had this blind spot for this defense. And so now you get the worst offense in the NFL coming, going up against them. That was kind of what pushed me over the edge. And then also just the slight bump that I do think getting Thomas back, getting Strange back, leaning a little bit more on Tootin as opposed to just going exclusive with ATN. Like, I think they're kind of doing it a little bit right. I think they're doing a little bit better. Maybe it took Liam Cohen a little bit longer to adjust than it did Ben Johnson or whatever, but I don't know. I think they're trending in the right direction. So I went Jacksonville here, laying the 6. Rams are on the road at Carolina, as you would imagine. This is a big spread. It is 10.5 in favor of the Rams. 45 is the prevailing total, though you can find a 44.5 and you can find a 45.5 out there in this one. I mean, Noops, Rams look like the best team in the NFL right now, most complete team in the NFL right now. You got a quarterback playing at NFL MVP level. You got 2 really good options at wide receiver. You got a couple of options at running back. The defense has been very, very good. And they probably have the advantage on the sideline against most teams as well with their coaching staff or whatever. It seems like the Rams firing on all cylinders, but it is on the other side of 10. We are talking double digits plus a hook.
It's a really tough game because you look at it, why isn't this 13.5? And it's because Carolina has been sort of okay. The defense gets a little bit better. Their pass coverage has been okay. The offense has been just pitiful the last few weeks, but there are some up and down spots. And again, is this a little bit of a letdown? The Rams saw the Eagles lose. They now have a pretty dominant position in terms of getting the 1 seed in the NFC. And they're coming off 3 absolutely huge wins over the Buccaneers, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. They then come on the road to play this game in Carolina that doesn't really matter. So are you going to get their best effort? Now, it's a veteran team. Stafford knows, this is his last season probably. McVay's a great coach. These guys will probably be ready to go, and maybe they just pound the Panthers. But just a little bit worried about the schedule spot here. So lean Rams minus 10.5. Was thinking about maybe looking at, honestly, some Stafford unders kind of parlayed with some Rams spreads. I think you'll get a nice reverse correlation bump on that, where if you are the Rams, you're going to run the ball a lot. And if you're winning this game comfortably, you may even see some Garoppolo here. So we'll probably try to get creative with some of that stuff, but just a little concerned about the Rams' motivation here in a game that really doesn't matter for them.
I'm with you 100%. Like, I almost feel like if I had to play this thing, I'd play the Panthers, because like you're up 17 in the fourth quarter, right? Which is a very comfortable, awesome lead in the NFL. It is a 3-score lead, but the point spread doesn't care. And so it's sitting there at 10.5. And then there's a minute 47 left. And then the Panthers are just like, moseying on down the field because you don't care because you're up 17 points. Right. And then they get the little garbage time score with 21 seconds left in the game, kick the extra point because it doesn't really make a difference if you go for 2. And then next thing you know, here we are, and we've busted our 10.5. So like, that's like this That's how I've played it out in my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've already played it out in my head. Like, the Rams dominate the game. They're up 17 in the fourth. Garbage touchdown. We don't even get them going for 2 because it doesn't matter. Like cutting it to 9 doesn't matter. I mean, you know, so there it is. They kick the extra point, get it to 10, and then we lose by the hook or whatever. So I don't know. Can't get there on that one, but I do believe that the Rams show up. It doesn't seem like the team, right? That just Stafford's 37, super veteran, Devontae Adams, been around the league forever. Like, I don't think those dudes let these guys come out and be flat, you know? Like, that just doesn't seem like that type of deal for me.
Yeah, especially with the great coaching staff. Again, McVay does a wonderful job preparing these guys every week, and I'm sure he sees the value of, keeping your foot on the gas, continue to push here. And I imagine, again, they'll win this game comfortably, but if there was ever a chance, again, you want to empty the bench in the fourth quarter, let some other guys get some time, this could be it. And like you're saying, you get to the end of the game, they're up 14, 17 points. There's 2-3 minutes left. They don't care. They're just trying to get the clock ticked down. And you can even have Garoppolo throw a pick 6 or something goofy like that. You're just never going to feel safe.
New Orleans Saints are on the road at the Miami Dolphins. This is sitting 5.5 in favor of the Dolphins at home, coming out of a bye. 41.5, 42 is our total here. A little bit of love for the Dolphins. This thing opened about 4.5, so 5.5 currently. So we've seen a little bit of money come in here on this Dolphin squad coming out of the bye. We will find out 90 minutes before game time, or maybe some point tomorrow. They can do it whenever. Darren Waller could come off IR and all of that if you care. Although he did seem to kind of spark this offense a little bit when he was healthy and whenever he was in there. So certainly gives him a nice red zone target at the very least. The Saints are going to be without Alvin Kamara in this game, so it will be Devin Neal if you want to go out and pick up a last-minute fantasy person or something to throw in that at least going to get run. I can't promise production. I can at least promise snaps there for Neal. What say you here in this one? Very interesting, weird game. 2 teams, dead team walk-in, maybe lame duck coach in Miami, all kinds of weird stuff with this one.
I think this is the hardest game of the week to handicap because you've got a Saints team that, looked okay against a bad Carolina defense, then couldn't do anything against what was a pretty good game by the Falcons defense there. They now go on the road to face a Dolphins team that I don't know if they're good or they're just not bad. I mean, they've won 2 games in a row. They beat Buffalo by 17 points, but then need overtime to beat the Commanders. They're coming off a bye. They're at home here. Miami has really given me trouble all season. I do wonder why this spread isn't 6.5 or 7.5. Like you said, the Dolphins have been bet, but it's really slowed down since, the move from 4.5 to 5.5. I expected this to be closer to 6.5, but I just can't feel comfortable laying points with the Dolphins team that has just been an enigma.
Yeah. I will say this, and I brought up Neal from a fantasy perspective and just kind of threw that out there in case someone needed someone to throw in. But I will say, I think he gets the majority of the run here because it's kind of why not see what you've got in the guy and all of that? It's almost like a blessing that Kamara's hurt because you kind of know what you have in a 31-year-old running back as opposed to what's going on there. I think it's at least somewhat interesting against a defense that you're just not scared of really at all on the Dolphins side of things, as far as defending the run for sure. Anyway, they're bottom half of the league. I mean, they're not terrible, but 20th overall against the run. Neal's prop is super low. It's 30 market low of 37.5.
It's an interesting look because, again, who else are they going to give the ball to? We've got Audric Esteem, who was supposed to get some run with the Broncos, really hasn't played and was bad in the opportunities he did get when he was in Denver. And, again, this will be his first game or maybe a second game played, and he was playing special teams mostly. The third guy is someone by the name of Evan Hall, with all due respect to, a professional athlete, but a 5th-round pick in his 3rd season that has 1 carry in his first 2 years. You're right. Neal's going to get the ball a lot, and fantasy is often about usage more than anything else.
It's, at 37.5, we need 13 carries at 3 yards a carry, which is not super efficient. And we're home if we get 13 carries at 3 yards a carry.
No, I like that look. That sounds really honestly doable.
Yeah. So again, just something that I threw in the account, and I don't I like to give you guys hard data whenever I come behind things. Be like, the guy's making his first start. I have no idea. But again, you don't have to be efficient. 3 yards a carry, 13 carries, 3 yards a carry. That's all I need. That's all I'm asking for here in this one. Atlanta is on the road at the Jets. They are 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Jets. A 39.5-point total here in this one, Noops. And we know that Drake London gets ruled out yet again. We already know it's Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season. So it'll be, I guess, Darnell Mooney as the number one target there for Atlanta. And then the Jets kind of just are the Jets. It just is what it is with that. Every week there's a game that I hate and wish that I didn't have to watch. And I think this is probably it.
Absolutely no reason whatsoever to watch this football game. There is nothing to learn here. It's 2025, and we're going to watch Kirk Cousins start against Tyrod Taylor, folks. It's just a disaster of a football game. Was hoping that the total would start with a 4. 39.5 is probably just a touch too low to bet the under, but I think, honestly, if you just play both team totals under, you probably go 1-1 at the worst. I mean, this game should just stink. We know that Drake London has a huge impact on the passing game, but also the run game. If you look, Bijan's average yards per carry drop a couple of yards in games basically without Drake London or plays without Drake London. Defenses know that they could just stack the box because it's Darnell Mooney and, honestly, nobody really else in the passing game. So I think maybe you look towards an under here. What I will say, the best piece of advice I can give you is, if this is your local TV game and it's the only game you could watch, go do something with your significant other, with your family, and pretend to make a big deal about missing a football game. You know, honey, let's go do something with the kids. I'll skip the football game this week because you guys are more important.
Some rain, but no like significant wind or anything like that. So I mean, again, like you might see it raining, but we've got hard data on the fact that, like, unless it's like sideways rain doesn't really affect production all that much. And so
it actually is good for overs a lot of the time because you'll see more turnovers. The defense can't really get their feet set. And like you said, it's really wind is the only thing that keeps totals down.
San Francisco on the road at Cleveland. This is 4.5 in favor of the 49ers. This is 36.5 on the total out there. If you're wondering why this total is so low, it started circling the internet today. If you weren't on the internet, then you didn't see it is going to be some sort of weather there in Cleveland. So we are talking sustained 20 plus, gusts 35, 40. There's going to be precipitation depending on if that rain turns to snow or slush, or if it's just full on snow or whatever it is and all of that. So this is a full on weather game for sure, which is why we are seeing this 36-point total here in week number 13. I'm guessing that actually is somewhat better for Cleveland, Noops. I mean, they have a good defense, and if you make the other team one-dimensional because they can't throw it, that probably increases the variance a little bit on your end. And so, I don't know. I mean, I'm not running to the window to back Cleveland at 4.5, but, like, you know, I think the weather could kind of maybe favor them a little bit in this.
It absolutely does. When you get these situations where, again, we're going to be near freezing temperatures, 20 plus mile an hour winds throughout the game with even bigger gust and possibly snow on the field, those are games where usually the best defense wins the day. And the Browns have by far the best defense in this game. And, you know, you look last week, I know it's against the Raiders, but Shedeur Sanders wasn't bad, which is a huge improvement over what the Browns have had at quarterback all season. He can manage this game, and he's a pretty good athlete. At the very least, we know Quinshon Judkins is very good, and this 49ers defense is bad. They just get worse and worse every week. They really miss Fred Warner. It's going to be tough for them, and even though they know the Browns are going to run, I think you're going to see the Cleveland be in control of this game pretty much from beginning to end. I grabbed some Browns early in the week before we heard the weather and the total.
I like it.
And then the spread came down at the same time. But at 4.5, I'm still taking Cleveland, and I'll even sprinkle the money line a little bit here. I think this 49ers team is still a little bit overrated. I know Brock Purdy should be better than he was last week. It would be hard not to, but I just don't see what the 49ers are going to do here to be able to move the ball efficiently. And again, their defense has been bad against the run. I don't think they can stop Judkins here. So I like Cleveland with the points, and I think they're a live dog.
So I'm trying to look up here if I just if we got a angle on this thing, because so if we're looking at this game and this weather holds, and again, we're doing this on Friday, weather's weird, but all systems say that this is going to be full-on weather game, wind, huge gusts, precipitation of some sort, all the different stuff like that. So on the season so far anyway, Noops, Christian McCaffrey is averaging a little over 18 carries a game. His prop number is set at 18.5 in this game, and they don't give anybody else carries. Like literally the only time they give Brian Robinson a carry is when McCaffrey's had like 7 in a row. Like, I mean, like that's the only time they ever give Brian Robinson a carry. And if we think that this weather could make them have to suppress how many times they pass, and he's averaging 18 carries a game anyway, and our number is set at 18.5, we probably should be playing the over here, right?
I like that angle, and especially because it's attempts versus yards. I think it's going to be tough for him versus this defense. So it makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's going to make the account as well, because again, he's averaging, if you do it all, 18.15 carries a game as it is anyway. And if we think that this weather could definitely suppress pass attempts, like you said, we're not betting yardage. He didn't have to be efficient. We just need him to get the carry. Like we just need him to turn around and hand him the ball.
I like that a lot. I'll definitely be betting that in some form.
Minnesota on the road at Seattle. Yes. As you would imagine, it's going to be another big spread. 11.5, 12.5 is the range you can find out there right now in favor of Seattle at home over Minnesota. 41 is our total. JJ McCarthy in the concussion protocol. So Max Brock, you've heard us mention him here on this podcast a couple of different times over the course of the year. So this is not the first time you've heard the name. Max Brosmer is going to be your starter for Minnesota. I mean, look, they couldn't do anything with McCarthy. They sure as hell aren't going to do anything with Brosmer. But the problem with these name your scorer games for me, Noops, is you're Seattle. You know you're making the playoffs. You actually might even be thinking about trying to make the Super Bowl. All of this, like, when do you call off the dogs? When do we start getting soft stuff, bad play calls, all the things like that? So I don't know, man. Like I just don't know where to go with this thing.
I think this is all Seahawks. I mean, they had a little bit of a down week against Tennessee last week. They'll be back at home here, and they're 11.5-point favorites this week at home. They were 13.5-point favorites last week on the road, and I don't know why, again, with Max Brosmer, an undrafted rookie who's going to play his first career start in one of the loudest stadiums in the history of football against arguably the best pass rush in the NFL. Why is this less than 14? I don't understand this number. I had this at 13.5, maybe 14. So I'm going to lay the points with the Seahawks. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Seahawks defense generate more points in the Vikings offense. I mean, poor Max Brosmer. I know his whole life he's wanted to start a football game, but boy, oh boy, I bet he'd choose a different one than this one.
And I know it is like the people, the sharps out there, Noops, are going, this is going to hurt your ears or something. But like, listen, if you're squeamish about laying 11.5 and you wanted to play this in like some sort of non-traditional teaser form or something like that or whatever, take it down to 6.5 as opposed to what, however you want to do it. Look, man, betting, you can have fun betting sometimes. Like if you want to have a sweat on this game, but you like, 11.5 is a little too much for me or something. Look, man, they're going to win by a touchdown. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be, double digits. So it's like, that's the thing here. So just, again, you can go to other channels. You're going to be like, you could never do that and whatever. And that's bad. And all. We're not like that. Like betting can be fun. So if you want to have a sweat on the game, you can take it down a little bit and make the number a little bit more palatable for you. And, I don't hate that because Seattle's going to win the game. It's just, when do they call off the dogs is the only thing that I'm concerned about.
Exactly. And it's a situation where, again, I'm happy to lay these points. And I think you even go the other way because even if they don't call off the dogs, what's Minnesota going to do? I mean, I think this fourth quarter for Brosner, it's going to be brutal. I expect him to be sacked several times. We're going to see some turnovers. It's just going to be another just really sad game in what has become a bummer of a season for the Vikings.
Who's the backup? Is it still Drew Lock? Who's the backup in Seattle? Is it still Drew Lock?
I believe it is. Let me double check here. But that's another interesting idea, kind of similar to what I was talking about with Stafford unders and, Ram spread. Maybe do some Darnold unders because, it is Drew Lock, and then they've got Jalen Milroe as well there.
If it's a quarterback that they trust, I mean, they would have no problem like Drew Lock playing the fourth quarter or something if they're up huge.
Yeah, so maybe that's the other angle you take. Some Darnold passing yards unders with a Seattle big stinking spread because, again, if they get to the fourth quarter, they'll just sit and let Drew Lock finish it out.
And you know what? If you do that in a same game parlay, the algorithm's going to look at that as uncorrelated, and you're going to get an awesome price on that.
Yeah, it's one of the best things you can do.
Yeah. Buffalo on the road at Pittsburgh. This is 3. It is juiced pretty much everywhere, so it could go to 3.5 in favor of Buffalo. 45.5 the prevailing total. Out there in the market, it's leaning towards Aaron Rodgers playing. I don't know if anyone cares. I thought Rudolph did fine. I mean, I couldn't tell if the quarterback playing had no number on. It's him and Aaron Rodgers, whatever. It's a toss up for me there in that one. So Buffalo, of course, sitting there at 3 could be the 3.5 though. Noops. I don't know. If that really matters here in this one for Buffalo, because I kind of think it's one of the situations with this Buffalo team. They either show up or they don't. If they show up, they probably beat the hell out of Pittsburgh. And if they don't, they might even lose the damn game outright, right? It's like, so I don't know if the spread even matters what the number is in this game.
Yeah, if I'm taking Pittsburgh, which, by the way, I'm not, I would definitely look at some money line because this is a really important game. This should feel like a playoff game because whoever loses this is in real danger of missing the playoffs. Even the Bills, who have a solid record. If Pittsburgh loses this, it's almost definitely over. So it's just an absolute balls to the wall game for both teams here. And as I start to look at it, Buffalo's defense is bad, but Pittsburgh offense hasn't really been any good. And Buffalo's offense is good, but Pittsburgh's defense is, decent. They're above average. So I just don't know what to expect. And like you pointed out, this Bills team, if it wasn't for the Packers, they'd probably be the most uneven squad we've seen all season. So kind of expecting some points in this game, but it's just so hard to trust. Again, Aaron Rodgers coming back from his first game. He's been very hesitant to throw the ball and stand in the pocket the last couple weeks. You do have the Bills off Thursday Night Football, so a little bit of extra rest for them. I think that's probably why you've seen them take money all week, but this is just a really tough game to handicap. I think the Bills win. I just don't know by how much, and there's just a small part of me that this is the classic Steelers sort of surprise everybody game.
I feel like I might end up on some sack props for the Steelers. By the way, both starting tackles are out in this game for the Bills.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen, here's the deal about running quarterbacks. While they avoid sacks, they also run themselves into sacks too, because they think that they're Superman and can run around and whatever and all of that stuff. And so I might look at some sack props in this one where it doesn't necessarily mean the Buffalo's going to lose. It doesn't mean that I think they're going to do poorly in the game, but I do think if you're missing both tackles, very likely that this Pittsburgh team's going to be able to generate some sort of pressure. Josh Allen likes to try to create plays. He'll run it. He'll move around in the pocket. He'll not throw it away. He'll try to do whatever. And, you get caught from behind sometimes to do that. You get trapped whenever you do that sometimes. So I think I might look at that, Noops, and that be my play here in this one and sit back and try and decide if this Buffalo team is actually good or not.
Yeah, I like that angle, and I would suggest maybe we take a look at Josh Allen rush attempts over because, like you said, he's going to be running for his life without those tackles. A lot of those sacks end up becoming rush attempts, so I would look at that as well.
This game has a really big question for you because we know that Vegas is terrible. However, the Chargers are favored by 9.5. The Los Angeles Chargers are favored by 9.5. And so it's like, yes, two things can be true at the same time. One, Vegas is terrible. Two, the Chargers might not be might not be the team to be favored by 9.5 over anybody in the NFL. So like two things can be true at the same time. It is a 40.5 total. So a 10-point spread essentially with a 40.5 point total as Vegas hits the road over there to LA. It's going to be 50-50 in the stadium. It's not going to be because, again, the Raiders history and all that, guys. So like, it's not going to, there's going to be no home field advantage for the Chargers. So if you're trying to figure that into this line, it doesn't exist. And so 9.5, it actually has even gotten to 10 at MGM. Noops, are the Chargers 10 points better than any team in the NFL? And I say that pretty confidently because Vegas is 31st in my power rating. So it's basically any team in the NFL.
It's just a really scary spot. You've got the Chargers coming off a bye. That always helps quite a bit. And I wonder if all those Raiders fans being in the building might actually make it tougher for them because they're not the happiest fan base and there's nothing really for them to be excited about in this game. So if things get a little nervy here, if the Raiders do look bad, if they have to bench Geno Smith and for God's sakes bring in Kenny Pickett, does it just make it harder? At the same time, the Chargers, you're coming off a bye. You want to play a really good game, but you probably should save a little bit of your powder here because the rest of the season is brutal. They host Philadelphia next week, then go to Kansas City, then they go to Dallas, come back home to play Houston, and then back to Denver for the last game of the season. So this should be a smash spot for the Chargers, but if they've got a lead in the second half, they'll probably just grind some clock away, and maybe the Raiders can somehow score by accident.
So when it got to the full 10 at MGM, I played the 10, and here's the reasoning of why. This Chargers offensive line is legitimately the worst offensive line in the NFL. And the Vegas still at least has Max Crosby. So you would think he probably is going to draw double teams, but with that should create opportunities for Vegas to do something as far as pressuring Herbert. That's one of the reasons in this. 2, it can only be better after firing Chip Kelly. The offense was horrific. He was calling the worst games I've ever seen in the last 5 or 6 years that I can remember from an offensive coordinator. I mean, you have one of the biggest mismatches in the NFL in Brock Bowers, and somehow he's not getting 10 targets a game automatic. Like, Brock Bowers should never leave a game without 10 targets. Most of the time, he should probably have 12. He is line him up in the slot, line him up out wide, line him up in line, like all these different things. The guy is a mismatch no matter what you do. I think whoever is going to be calling plays, whatever the play calling duties become, can only be better than what we were getting from Chip Kelly and him getting fired there with the Raiders. So I think this offense at least could look a tiny bit better in all this. And then the third, which is to a lesser extent, there's just no home field advantage in this at all. Like it's not going to be loud when Geno's trying to like take a snap on third down and all that. So it's not. It's probably going to be 50-50 at best, and probably more like 60-40, 70-30 when it comes to Raiders fans over there, against the Chargers. So the full 10 was too much. It's at MGM currently. If you're not an MGM, if you're watching this, it's not there at MGM. I'd still probably play the 9.5. I know the 10's much more sexy, but I don't know if the Chargers are 10 points better than anybody. I just don't.
You make a lot of great points. And again, that home field advantage piece is huge because I think we do see a little bit of home field advantage built into this line for the Chargers, and it certainly shouldn't be. So yeah, it's kind of a hold your nose. Sometimes betting is about eating the stinky cheese, and there is no stinkier cheese in the Raiders.
Sunday Night Football, Matt Brown and Noops Christensen for lineups, Denver and Washington. This is 5.5, 6 in favor of Denver. 43.5 is our total here in this one. Of course, this is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. It is again, if you live in a Bet365 market and you don't have an account already, I don't know what you're doing. They have promos all season long. They have stuff going on every day of the week. Go in, take advantage of all that. And also one of just the cooler menus of a lot of the books. I know we're talking NFL right now, but I mean, if you're a golf bettor, it's the only book that offers each way betting in golf in the United States. Like, it's super popular overseas, but they bring it over here and allow us to do all of that. And of course, like I said, they're not afraid to give you any sort of promo any day of the week. So, Noops and I talk about it every week, but honestly, this is, even if it wasn't brought to you by Bet365, we would still tell you should have a Bet365 account.
We definitely
Wouldn't you
would.
say?
And you make such a great point. Again, the deli menu, I always talk about. No one has a bigger menu than 365. They have some really nice odds. A lot of those high vig markets like touchdown score, they take a little less juice than a lot of other books. You almost always get a better price there. So again, if you live in any of the states lucky enough to have Bet365, you better have an account.
So as I said, we're sitting here. This is 5.5 in favor of the Broncos. The Commanders 43.5. We will not get Jaden Daniels back for this game for Washington. So this is a Marcus Mariota line as Denver goes on the road over there to Washington. Denver's defense just continues to show up, Noops. And I mean, week after week after week, not only am I blown away by the players themselves, but I think that the scheme and the way that they go about attacking these teams and really taking advantage of the weaknesses of all of these teams. It has been a masterclass all year long by this Denver defense. And I don't know if Marcus Mariota is equipped to take advantage of that. I know the Denver offense is nothing that we're like super excited about, but I mean, the defense, if you don't allow very many points, your offense doesn't have to do very much to cover a 5.5 point spread.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And again, Pat Surtain's coming back this week. The defense should only be better. Both teams coming off a bye. I think they'll have excellent game plans for one another. And I just don't know how either offense gets the ball moving here. I mean, the Denver defense is spectacular. They are going to just swallow up the Commanders' offense here. It's going to be a really tough day for them. But at the same time, the Commanders' defense hasn't been great, but neither is the Broncos' offense. They don't show up every week. So I think this is probably kind of a classic game where it might be like 14-7, something like that. So I was blown away when I saw the total was as high as 43.5. I will happily bet that. And honestly, probably even look into some alt unders on Sunday morning once I see what the final injury report looks like.
Yeah, I went on the prop angle with this one as well. Hey, I do not hate if anybody wants to play this in a different way than me, but I went prop angle here. And so Bo Nix really, really enjoys throwing the ball to Troy Franklin. And Troy Franklin, I would argue, and I know like on paper he's not, I think Bo Nix, if he had his druthers, would want Troy Franklin to be his number one target. I think Troy Franklin would be the number one option here in this offense. The books were still put out numbers like 44.5 from a receiving standpoint on Franklin, who also, by the way, is a downfield deep target. So could get you either all or most of this on one catch, right? So you are looking at a secondary that's just been torched all season long. I mean, the Commanders have been atrocious covering receivers all season long, absolutely torched. And so at 44.5, 45 yards for what I consider to probably be the first option, or really close to being the first option for this team, it's just too low. We're trying to get ahead of these things and whatever. I mean, there's still a lot of season left, right? And so Troy Franklin's number in 3 weeks might be 58.5 as opposed to 44.5 right here, because everybody sees how many targets and how often Bo Nix looks his way. So I'm going to get ahead of it here. I think that he comes out and really puts on a show here. Might even play, I know it's the trendy thing to talk about, but I might even play some ladders here. I might like kind of play the 50, 60, 70, 80 on Franklin, because I do believe that this is one of those opportunities against this secondary in particular where he could put up some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, despite Troy Franklin playing about, we'll call it 160 less snaps than Courtland Sutton, he's got 7 more targets over the season. Yeah. He's got 2 games with 10-plus targets. I mean, he's averaging, call it 9 targets a game over the last 5 weeks, way more than Courtland Sutton here. So I like that quite a bit. I would look at receptions. I would look at yards. I think it's all good.
Guys, we'll end this thing with Iowa Sayonara, Speculator on in Circus Survivor. This was it for me in the Thanksgiving week. Save the Eagles for this particular week. I mean, I planned out the season all, do the whole deal where you plan out if this turns out perfectly, this is the play that I would love. I played the Ravens last week. I'd already played the Lions earlier in the season. I was always playing the Eagles. I needed the Chiefs later, so I couldn't play the Chiefs this week. This was always going to be the Eagles for me. Wouldn't have mattered if I played the Chiefs anyway. They lost 2. So it was just my week to get booted. Noops, it's weird because I know a lot of people talk about when you go out of Survivor, certainly when you make a deep run and it's, $18 million top prize and all the different stuff like that, oh man, I was depressed or I felt so terrible or I felt whatever. It's kind of like, well, I kind of only had one decision. And so I was never playing a 7-point dog, right? I was just wasn't going to be and if I was going to play a dog, I would have played the Bengals, and I didn't have the Bengals available. I played them in week 1. So I couldn't even played Cincinnati and Joe Burrow against this Ravens team that I didn't like, and so and I played the Packers already too. So they weren't an option. So it was what it was. The Eagles came out, horrible game by Jalen Hurts, and that ends the run for me. 49 people left out of the 18,000 plus after we have just a complete massacre where 850 people go out over the Thanksgiving week.
It was an incredible week, and that's how Survivor goes. You get a couple weeks where everyone just sort of gets slaughtered, and like you said, it's just so difficult. You get this deep in the season, even if you planned everything out, and you did a great job. The Eagles at home, 7-point favorites the day after Thanksgiving, awful loss, every single thing adding up to what should be a comfortable win for them, but you can't overcome, the bad bounces of the ball, and the Eagles are just a mess. So you have to feel good about the season you had, and hats off to anybody that somehow survived this week.
Yeah, good for them. 49 people now will duke it out for $18.7 million. And oh, by the way, that is the end of the inaugural Grandissimo contest. 3 on the Ravens, 3 on the Eagles, the 6 entries that all lose. That means the end of the contest. So they will all chop the $6.9 million. So every ticket worth over $1.1 million over there in that one. So congrats to all those guys that played that $100,000 buy-in contest. Just a bit out of the range for me, but we'll see. Maybe next year, Noops. Who knows? We'll see how the summer goes. Maybe I win every single baseball bet that I make. And then next thing then bam, there it is. You're going to start giving me basketball tips.
That's right. We can buy a Lamborghini or we can enter the Grandissimo next year.
Sounds great. For Noops, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Week 13 bets.
Bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose, with Bet365 Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus only. T&Cs apply. In-app only.